It's the ultimate sofa sale, when every single sofa without exception will be on sale at Rooms to Go. Save on leather sofas, motion sofas, sleeper sofas, and fabric sofas. Every sofa in every Rooms to Go showroom will be reduced to shocking low prices. It's an incredible opportunity, the ultimate sofa sale at Rooms to Go. Every sofa is on sale now through Tuesday.
Brian Norcross and David Bernard are tracking Ernesto's every move. Keep it on 4. Now, live, this is a special edition of CBS 4 News. Tropical Storm Ernesto.
And big changes tonight concerning Tropical Storm Ernesto. We are your weather station, and Brian Norcross and David Bernard have been tracking the storm as it makes its way across Cuba tonight.
The tropical system has people all over South Florida lining up waiting for gasoline. This is a live picture from the area around BJ's in Hialeah off 95th Street in Okeechobee. The 5 o'clock advisory, the last one we received, has given us a much different picture of this storm, and it's better, if not good, news about Ernesto.
Here are some of the things you need to know right now. Schools in all 3 counties are closed tomorrow. Shelters in Miami-Dade open tomorrow at 7 a.m. All Broward mobile home residents are ordered to be evacuated by tomorrow at 6 in the morning, and shelters in that county open up at 10.
We have a team of reporters spread throughout South Florida, from the Keys up north to Broward. We begin with CBS 4 storm specialist Brian Norcross in Weather Control. Brian.
All right, Maggie and Rob, we noticed about 3 o'clock this afternoon that Ernesto seemed to be undergoing some changes. The low-level center down at the surface was moving out away from the thunderstorms and moving in a more westerly direction and keeping it over the landmass of Cuba. Now we're seeing some other interesting developments that seem to indicate that Ernesto is just about to emerge over the water, and how it looks once it gets well out over the water is going to tell us a lot more about how it's going to be when it gets to our neighborhoods. Now let's look at the developments during the day today. There you see all this just massive clouds. This is 12 hours ago, so this was this morning about 7 o'clock. Now watch it go here, and watch this little part of it come over here, and now see the flare up of the thunderstorms over there, and those thunderstorms are right near the center. Now what's causing that is a big question mark. Is it because Ernesto's center, as this was the 5 o'clock position, has actually moved out over the water a little bit, and so it's starting to intensify and developing thunderstorms? Or is it because this upper low, there's a little upper low, I'll tell you more about that in a minute if you haven't been watching, that is actually causing the thunderstorms? It has nothing to do with Ernesto. Which is it? And we just don't know the answer to that until 2 things happen. One is Ernesto gets a little more out into the water, and the upper low moves on out of the picture, and we can see what happens with the thunderstorms. But anytime we see storms, the bright colors developing near the center, we go, uh-oh, the storm, the system may be getting stronger. However, even having said all that, the fact that it made that little move this afternoon is only good news, because it kept the center overland longer and therefore further disorganized it, and therefore led the National Hurricane Center to think that there's some significant possibility that it will not reorganize up to full hurricane strength, maybe just a strong tropical storm strength by the time it gets to us. Here's the wider view now, and you can see the system moving to the northwest, moving in our general direction, but it's a messy looking mass of clouds because of this interaction with these mountains down here, and there's the upper low. See the upper low going by? Watch it. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. And see the thunderstorms are kind of going with it. But it's very often the case that an upper low and a tropical system, when they get together, the thunderstorms get enhanced, and then sometimes the thunderstorms stay there with the tropical system when the low moves out of the way. So it's just too early to tell exactly what we're going to have when the system moves on out into the Atlantic. Here on the water vapor, we can see that upper low very clearly there. See that swirl moving along, and see it's kind of coming along like this, and right now it's just about here. Watch, there it is right in there, and it's going to go off to the west. And it's going to be out of the picture. It's going to be out of the picture in plenty of time to have no influence on Ernesto when it's in this area between Cuba and Florida, and right now it also seems like it's a limiting influence because it's pushing dry air back in toward Ernesto. So with that influence gone, it looks like the weather pattern between Ernesto and us is going to be quite favorable for strengthening. The water is plenty warm. The question is Ernesto going to have enough time and enough structure left to pull itself together by the time it gets here? Now here you see the numbers as of the 5 o'clock advisory, 21.3 and 76.9. Winds just holding on at 40 miles an hour, barely a tropical storm. The forward speed picked up a little bit up to 13, and compared to this morning, that means it's going to get here a little sooner with the bad weather arriving tomorrow afternoon. 1,007 millibars, that's a high pressure, meaning a fairly weak storm, 375 miles southeast of Miami as of 5 o'clock. Now, future track takes the storm offshore, although it may be beginning to emerge at this point. We're going to check in with Max Mayfield here just moments from now and get the reading from the hurricane hunters. In fact, to tell you what, why don't we just stop right there? Since Max is apparently ready, we can ask the question directly to Max Mayfield. Max, just speculating on whether Ernesto had emerged yet or was over the coast. What are the hurricane hunters telling us?
Well, Brian, first of all, we really owe a big thanks to the hurricane hunters. This is not a lot of fun for them to be doing the shore patrol here back and forth. They're at 1,000 feet, and I'm sure that's a very rough ride at that altitude. They're really not showing even as much of a wind shift here as they did earlier, so it's still over land. In fact, we're looking at one of the Cuban radars, and we can't control how fast this loop goes here, but you can definitely see the circulation, and it still looks like it's 40 miles or so east of Camagray. So that's actually good news. The longer that stays over land, the less time it'll have to strengthen.
Up to the north, we were noting a moment ago, and you can see on your radar picture there, the fairly enhanced, pretty strong-looking thunderstorms there. Do you think that's Ernesto doing that, or do you think that's that upper low doing that, or just the interaction of the two? You have any opinion there?
It may be a little bit of both those, but you're right here. We've got some of the strongest thunderstorm activity now on the west side, and we really haven't seen that all day. Most of it's been lagging back to the east.
Yeah, it's a little disconcerting. We don't like to see that, but we just have to wait and see what happens. I mean, still the bottom line is, what shape is this going to be when it moves out over the water?
All right, and we don't want to forget here, it's still got a day or so before it gets, at least on our forecast track, before it really gets here. So that's plenty of time to strengthen, and we've been talking about the comparison with Katrina. A day before Katrina hit us last year, it was a minimal tropical storm just like Ernesto.
Yeah, and in fact, it probably had less going for it than Ernesto does. And Ernesto has this very, very warm water and a long history of storms intensifying in the Florida Straits there. And when you say it would be fair to say that once the low moves out of the way, it's going to leave behind a very favorable atmosphere.
There's no doubt about that, and I think that a little upper low you've been talking about during the day here certainly has helped inhibit this, in addition to the interaction with land. The models are much better at integrating the equational motions than you and I are here, and the models all show that that's just going to dissolve, and the upper level conditions should become more favorable.
Max, in terms of the timing for folks, we're thinking that obviously it has something to do with how strong Ernesto gets on when the winds pick up, right? But we should have time in the morning to take some action here before the weather would deteriorate.
That's right.
I'm talking about in Dade and Broward now. In the Keys, it would be a little sooner.
Right. I think and we know we don't have a perfect forecast here, but if we're close to being right, the tropical storm force winds will likely be getting near the upper Keys around noon, a little bit later here in Miami-Dade County, and even later in the afternoon the farther north you go here. But we've got tonight, and we've got hopefully all tomorrow morning before things go downhill.
Max, I have noticed in your discussion you haven't talked anything about points well north, but I guess this system has the potential to be a problem all the way up the East Coast to some degree, a flooding problem if nothing else, right?
No, I'll assure you that when we were talking to the stations up on the Mid-Atlantic coast, we were talking to them about that.
Okay.
And you bet, there's still, if the track actually, gets back out of the Atlantic here, it has an even better chance, I think, of becoming a hurricane as it heads up into the Carolinas here. And it's coming into that oblique angle again here, so just a little change in the direction of motion here is the difference between South Carolina and North Carolina, and they could certainly have impacts from the wind and the rain up there too.
And I guess if it veers a little further to the right, they're going to have to be paying attention in the northeast too. I know your track keeps it inland and kind of dies it out, but I noticed the new GFS just came out, keeping it right at the coast. So there are potential problems far north.
Yeah, there's some real divergence there beyond that, about the 4-day time period. Some take it well inland, some set it on the coast, and some still move it off the coast.
Right. All right, Max, we'll await the emergence of Ernesto into the water and see what we're dealing with here. Thanks very much. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, so that's the bottom line. It's the combination of all these factors, the land and the upper low, the two big ones. Which one is doing what at this present time, we don't know, but I'm going to try and get, once again, I tried to get the Cuban radar a few minutes ago and was not able to get in there, but I'm going to try once again, and maybe we can have that for you as well directly here. All right, let's go back just in case you haven't seen the latest future track with the storm coming off of Cuba tomorrow morning, and then by tomorrow evening, or this would actually be where it says PM Tuesday there, that area would be would be in the middle of the afternoon tomorrow. So the question is, the big question is, from the time it's here tomorrow morning, and that's talking about in the overnight hours of tomorrow, talking about tomorrow morning, for instance, 2 or 3 o'clock, the time it gets up into this area up here somewhere, what's going to happen in there? The water is very warm. The atmosphere looks like it's going to become conducive. So based on everything we know and can imagine, Ernesto is likely to strengthen. But how much it's going to strengthen is unusually unpredictable because of the various factors involved. In any case, all indications are that the storm will be approaching here tomorrow afternoon, with the weather deteriorating in the afternoon, and then the worst of the weather at night, and then moving on to the north and continuing on up the state of Florida. Now, and then, as Max said, depending on what happens here, if it goes offshore, potentially a hurricane in the Carolinas. If it stays onshore, then just perhaps flooding rains moving over the southeast, and then spreading on up to the north, where the earlier models were mostly showing it ashore, but some of the later models showing it more offshore. So that forecast obviously is going to have to be fine-tuned as we go forward in time. All right, let's stop there and turn it over to David Bernard. Since we've seen the future track and we know it could go to one side or the other or down the middle, and we've already seen it hugging the right side of the future track, but whether that's going to be the case for tomorrow, we don't know. But those different tracks make a considerable difference on what the weather effects are going to be here, and he's been looking into that. David?
And of course, Brian, with so much uncertainty in the intensity, what we really need to do is take into consideration the track, as Brian said, to the left of us, right over us, and to the right. Now, these conditions would vary depending on how much Ernesto strengthens tomorrow, or if it even strengthens at all. Now, we're going to start off with what is probably the least likely possibility at this point in time based on the size of the forecast cone. Most of the cone is over the peninsula or just to our east at this point in time. However, if the track was to go left of the metropolitan area and more across the middle and lower Keys, then the core of the tropical storm force winds would be confined to the Keys. We would definitely have gusty winds here on the southeast coast, and there would be some gusts of tropical storm force. But again, the most steady of the winds, the strongest ones, would be just to our south and west. Flooding, though, would still be a distinct possibility because of these strong rain bands coming in from the south. Heavy rain would definitely be a threat, and there would be some higher tide levels as well. Now, what about if we take a look at the middle track, basically tracking right across the Keys and up across the Miami-Dade and Broward area? Then we would have a much more significant impact here in the metropolitan region. Tropical storm winds would then be expected 39 to 73 miles per hour. Flooding very likely due to heavy rain, and also higher than normal tides. So coastal flooding, storm surge flooding, especially in the bay, would be a major concern. Across the lower Keys, some gusty winds, but the impacts would not be as great. Now finally, the last possibility, if the storm stays offshore to the right of the metropolitan area, what would that mean? Well, one thing we would have to take into consideration is the storm would not be tracking over the peninsula, so it could be getting stronger out here to our east as it went by us. So again, that would enhance the wind potential. So we would definitely say very windy, and probably tropical storm conditions would still be possible, especially if it was a strengthening storm. If it was a weak tropical storm, the winds would not be as bad because we'd be on the weaker western side of the storm. Still a threat for heavy rain, but the coastal flooding and storm surge threat would be lower because we mainly have offshore winds blowing across the bay versus the onshore winds if the track was to the left or across the middle. Gusty winds still in the middle Keys, some gusts to tropical storm force there, but notice I left out the lower Keys because the storm would be so far away and presumably not a very intense storm that the Keys would be, the lower Keys, the effects would be minimal. Okay, that's how the 3 track scenarios look right now. Let's turn it back over to the anchors, Rob and Maggie.
Thank you, David and Brian. Remember, you can ask Brian Norcross any questions you might have online. Just email us at cbs4.com and we will try to get as many of those on the air as we can today and throughout the next couple of days.
Oh, what a difference a year makes. After Wilma last year, we saw all these long lines at the gas stations. Well, those lines started today with word of Ernesto.
This time people want to prepare before and not after the storm. We have watched these lines grow just longer and longer as the days worn on. CBS 4's Jason Wheeler is live tonight in Pembroke Pines. Is that the case? Is it still growing, Jason?
Well, I think I have a tad bit of good news for you folks. We're at the Exxon just off of Pines Boulevard, and we've been here all afternoon, and the line has just been incredible throughout the afternoon. But right now, from where we're standing for the first time today, we can actually see the end of the line, so it is getting just a bit shorter out here for all of you people who may have been sitting on the couch all day watching this and sort of waiting for that news to come in. Now is your time because it does appear that it's getting a little bit better. Of course, everything is relative. You can see there are still quite a few people in line here, as there have been all day long all over South Florida. With Ernesto forecast to make a beeline toward Florida, thousands are now in line getting gas while the getting is good.
It's been nonstop since we got gas at about 11:30, 12 o'clock.
How long have you been waiting?
About an hour.
So you thought you'd be the early bird. Turns out there was a whole flock of early birds. Are you sitting here kind of hoping that the supplies hold out until you get there? You're only about 5 cars away.
Yeah, it should be fine.
That's crossed your mind a few times though, hasn't it?
Yeah. People are going a little crazy here. I mean, normally I wouldn't do this early, but the lines are just so long.
You're one of them going crazy now.
Yeah, I guess so.
In all the craziness, there have been some fender benders and mirror mishaps, but in the places that haven't already run out of gas, things are generally running pretty smoothly. You're specifically here to direct traffic.
Just to keep the peace and direct traffic.
Drivers exclaim it's better to go through this now, though. Too many of them remember the aftermath of Wilma. In some cases, that frenzy for fuel last year made today's lines look like fast movers.
Last year, I was out of gas for like a week.
Not going to go through that again?
Not going to go through that again, no.
I think people are scared after last year. They're trying to be prepared, which is a good thing.
Loading up cars and cans for generators, South Floridians are determined this time around that their tanks will be full, even if their wallets are running on empty. I see that the pump just stopped for you and you're at $100 even.
Right on.
What do you think about that?
Well, the way I look at it, if I don't use it for the generator, I can put it in the truck later. So, and it's cheaper gas prices than they were a week ago.
And probably cheaper than they may be after the storm.
Exactly.
Eddie Abbott doesn't plan to wait around to find out. On vacation here with the family from New Jersey, he saw the satellite and looked at the lines and decided to load up the GMC and get the heck out of Dodge, heading home to the Northeast a few days early. I guess this makes the snowstorms up there not seem so bad.
Not bad at all. Looking forward to them.
What are you thinking when you're looking at these lines and what people here go through?
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to live down here.
It certainly is hard to live down here. Just ask that poor sap who looks like he ran out of gas down there as he was waiting in the gas line today. Unlike that poor guy, Broward County officials say they have plenty of gas to go around, that it's still coming into the port. Deliveries are going out regularly, so the word here is that if you're patient, you should be able to fill up your tank still. Live in Pembroke Pines, Jason Wheeler, CBS 4 News.
All right, Jason, and if you don't get it before the storm, a lot of these stations now have generators. Right. They learned their lesson, and a lot of people did that as well. Coming up, we're going to take a look at how people are getting prepared for the possibility of losing power this year.
And if you have questions, our Neighbors for Neighbors phone bank is taking calls to answer them. The number to dial is 305-597-4404.
You're watching a special edition of CBS 4 News tracking Tropical Storm Ernesto. We'll be right back.
story of Hollywood's most notorious unsolved mystery.
The guy used to play Superman, and he shot himself. What? Someone thinks he didn't.
He asked the questions
One of his suicides, missed twice and started over.
no one wanted to answer,
What's true or false really doesn't matter.
and blew open a case no one wanted touched.
I was gonna wipe the blood off your hands. Hands? I'm in the picture business. Are you threatening? If it hurts the studio, I have to fix it.
Adrian Brody, Diane Lane, Hollywoodland. Rated R. September 8th everywhere.
Provoke your taste buds with Subway Restaurant's new gourmet turkey sub. Succulent, all-white meat roasted turkey rubbed with a 7-pepper blend. Try it 3 ways. Honeyed barbecue smothered in a rich honey barbecue sauce, or turkey Siciliano with a savory sun-dried tomato pesto, and Asian glazed turkey with zesty Asian glaze, all toasted on freshly baked gourmet bread with your choice of crisp vegetables. For a limited time at participating restaurants. Subway. Eat fresh.
You're Tom Gallagher, and you've got problems.
You've run for governor 3 times, liberal, pro-choice, anti-gun, and so pro-tax you supported the state's largest tax increase.
Taxing Tom Gallagher. Desperate. You flip-flop, confessing each time you run, you're a different person.
But you're still taxing Tom Gallagher. No conservative still love higher taxes, even opposing Charlie Crist's property tax cuts.
Charlie Crist, endorsed by the NRA. Positive, pro-life, Ronald Reagan Republican we trust.
Get a heart-pounding deal on the 2006 Mitsubishi Eclipse GT. Hurry, offer ends August 31st. Mitsubishi, driven to thrill.
Throughout South Florida today, we have seen that preparing for Ernesto has meant a lot more than just getting gas and putting up shutters.
It is the boating capital of the world. A lot of people have to secure boats. A lot of people are getting generators ready. CBS 4's Maribel Rodriguez in Coconut Grove tonight with more on the preps going on. Maribel.
Well, Rob, we're here at the Dinner Key Marina. It's pretty quiet now. We've been here basically all day and seen over a dozen boat owners tying up their boats, making sure they're secure. I remember standing out here after Hurricane Wilma. This place was a mess. There were boats tossed around everywhere. So the folks we spoke to say they learned their lesson, and even though there's not a whole lot that can be done, they're taking some extra measures. Catherine McTeer isn't taking any chances. She's securing her home, tying down the sail, and doubling up on line.
After Wilma, we all learned a little bit of a lesson.
That's because she rode out Hurricane Wilma right here, and once she got out, this is what she encountered, a huge mess. At the Dinner Key Marina in Coconut Grove, boats were tossed everywhere, others piled up. So this time, she's leaving.
I'm going to do the best I can to secure what I can here, take everything down that'll fly away, and batten down the hatches and book.
But Catherine's not alone. We found other boat owners taping up, tying up, and hoping for the best.
I'm just running some extra lines just in case any of the lines snap during the storm. Not much else you can do.
I'm taping up all the openings because that water is going to come driving hard, and it has a tendency to test every seal on the boat. The more water you can keep out, the more chances you have of making it.
And speaking of making it, having a generator will probably make life a whole lot easier after a storm. We visited America's generators, where they have from permanent to mobile ones.
You don't have to worry about the installation issues, meaning you can just wheel it up to your house, you plug it into the transfer switch, and you have everything up and running again.
Those are relatively safe, but for all those who have these portable generators, here are some tips. Never use a generator in an enclosed or partially enclosed area. Keep it a minimum of 5 feet away from the home. Keep the generator dry. Never store gasoline in the home or near your generator. Before fueling, turn it off and let it cool down. And test your generator today. And the reason why you want to do that is to make sure it's working properly. You should also add some new fuel. Now, as for the boats, we spoke with the dock master. He says they've been preparing here for the past 2 days, and the best advice he can give boat owners is to double up on dock lines, put plenty of fenders around the boat, and also make sure batteries are topped off. Now, as for the boats on trailers at homes, he says basically just use common sense, remove the bimini top, and take out anything that may fly away. We're live in Coconut Grove. Maribel Rodriguez, CBS 4 News.
Thanks, Maribel. We want to give you a couple of different ways to get information on the storm from CBS 4 besides watching us. This is our hurricane hotline. The number is 1-877-4 888-419-CBS4. You'll get one of our storm specialists on the phone.
And you can also catch our updates on the radio with our partners there in Miami-Dade and Broward. You can listen on 101.5 FM, Magic 102.7, WLRN 91.3, and AM 850 WFTL and Sports Talk 790, along with News Talk 1080.
In the Keys, if you're down there, listen to us on US 1 104.1 FM, Conch Country 98.7, AM 97.7 Wave FM, and Oldies 105.5.
And for our Spanish-speaking listeners, you can tune into Classica 92.3 FM and Mega TV Channel 22.
Also, information online all the time. CBS4.com is your source.
Well, the Keys were first concerned with Ernesto, and now the visitors have been ordered out. But for the locals, of course, life goes on.
Yeah. As always. CBS 4's Mike Kirsch is down there live in Key West tonight at a bar with lots of people behind you. Not surprising, Mike.
Well, I'll tell you, Maggie, Rob, a different kind of a line down here. No gas line, but a line for liquid courage, let's call it that way, and for whatever else they want it for. People here are still sticking by. These are locals here. This is Jeff Morgan, a little bit of the hair of the dog that bit you, or what's this?
Well, we've been through quite a few hurricanes over the years, but we're not too afraid because we got it on good advice from our good friend right here. Let me get him in here. This is my friend Jim Cantor from the Weather Channel, and he says that there will be no hurricane here.
Okay, thanks guys, appreciate that. Well, you heard that. We've also heard it from Brian Norcross here. A lot of expert opinions here. We've also got a young woman over here. It is Heather Santangelo from Philly.
Right.
Now, you guys aren't supposed to be here.
No, we're not. We took the chance. My flight leaves out tomorrow morning, so we're hoping that everything will be all right. I'm hoping. The only thing I'm really concerned with is traffic going up to Fort Lauderdale for my flight.
Well, have you got a plan if things get nasty here? If they take a bad turn and you can't get out of here, what are you going to do?
Well, it looks like it's probably going to hit up. You know, I think it's gonna pass Key West, actually. So if that's the case, then we'll probably come back down here, we'll call out of work, and then we'll go from there.
All right, well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, and again, as we talked about this earlier, there are a lot of locals here, mostly locals here, and one thing we have heard is that you would normally see a much larger crowd here for what they're still calling a hurricane party here, but they're actually saying that because of hurricanes in the last 2 years here, many of the people that would normally be here have left, in fact, have moved out of the Keys to the mainland or are simply just moving on much earlier than they usually would. But that's the latest situation right here. Nothing major going on. People just sitting at the bar doing what they do, and we'll keep you posted. We've talked with the Emergency Operations Center here with Monroe County. Things going very smoothly. A couple people, they say, are in shelters. Other than that, everything fine right now as Ernesto continues to break up over Cuba, and they're not expecting too much here by tomorrow. We're live in Key West. Mike Kirsch, CBS 4 News.
All right, Mike, if anybody there does have any questions, if they decide to prepare, they can call Neighbors for Neighbors about what they need to do at 305-597-4404. Our volunteers are standing by.
You're watching a special edition of CBS 4 News, Tracking Ernesto.
The Hyundai Challenge is on. Now is the best time to save thousands on the smart-sized Hyundai Santa Fe, winner of Auto Pacific's Best in Class for vehicle satisfaction. It beat all other mid-size SUVs, including Ford Escape and Chevy Equinox. And it comes with America's best warranty. Rethink your next SUV and save big on Santa Fe at the Hyundai Challenge Summer Clearance. Get to your Hyundai dealer today for up to $4,000 cash back on Santa Fe. Get a new Santa Fe with up to $4,000 cash back at your local Hyundai dealer. Offer ends August 31st.
Susan!
Oh, hey.
I called you like a dozen times. What happened?
It's myself. Service is unreliable.
Well, you better switch. Then we can reconnect.
Sure. Hey, thanks for hiding.
No problem.
Your wireless network makes all the difference.
He never would have believed me.
So switch to America's most reliable and get a fully loaded VCast music and navigation phone. Verizon Wireless. It's the network.
Hurricanes hit Florida. The Florida legislature changes the law regarding insurance claims.
They passed a law last year to create a loophole that makes it more difficult for you to get your money back from your insurance company if you're hit by wind and flood. They wrote this bill. They own the process.
Now record profits for insurance companies, record rates for homeowners. Isn't it time to have a governor on our side?
Because I'm going to stand up for you on issues like homeowners insurance.
Jim Davis, Democrat for governor.
Announcing the Subaru all-wheel deal model year clearance. There's never been a better time to buy the Subaru Outback and Forester. Right now, get an Outback 2.5i with amazing 0% APR financing and $2,000 cash back. The all-wheel drive Outback and Forester. Both are great alternatives to gas-guzzling SUVs, and they have a 5-star crash test rating. Hurry! 0% APR financing and $2,000 cash back ends September 5th.
Now, live, this is a special edition of CBS 4 News. Tropical Storm Ernesto.
Good afternoon, Maggie Rodriguez here with Rob Hanrahan, bringing you the headline of the day. This is a changing storm. We're watching Ernesto as it makes its way through southeastern Cuba. And that was the headline that we got today at the 5 o'clock advisory.
Many people watching it are also trying to prepare. Look at these lines as people wait in line to buy gasoline. State and local officials say the supplies are there. You just have to be patient. Your weather station, of course, closely tracking this tropical storm tonight.
Let's begin our coverage with CBS 4 storm specialist Brian Norcross, live in weather control, to tell us what we know tonight. Brian.
All right, Maggie and Rob, the bottom line on this storm is we expect a situation somewhat like what we had last year with Hurricane Katrina. Not Wilma, but Katrina. That's what we expect. But we also add that there is tremendous uncertainty because the system is still very disorganized and over Cuba. And until it emerges up into the Straits of Florida, and we can kind of see exactly what has survived that has a chance to come back together, then perhaps a better judgment can be made on how strong it's going to be by the time it gets here. Looks like it's going to have a whole day's worth of transit time. That's plenty of time for systems to intensify if the structure is there and the atmospherics are there. So we think the atmospherics will be there. We think the water will be sufficient, very warm, very deep warm water. The question is whether there's enough of a circulation for it to pull itself together. And the thinking of the National Hurricane Center is that there's enough for it to pull itself together, but probably not worse than Katrina last year. However, having said that, there's a possibility of it being a hurricane, and that's why the hurricane watch continues for South Florida. Now, on the satellite picture, we have sort of a mixed message here, and let me show you why. There it has been during the day today, and what we see is it started out over here, and then the low-level part ended up over there, and what we see with that now is some thunderstorms developing around it. There you see the center as of the 5 o'clock advisory, and you can see we have thunderstorms in kind of a band down here. We also have what looks a little bit like a band here trying to develop, and maybe there's another band in here. And when we see bands like that, that normally indicates a fairly favorable environment. But there's another player in that, and this is an upper level low that's up in here. Here on the vapor loop, we can see this. Now watch this here. There's the upper low. See that swirl moving by? And that has been done two things, I think. One is it may be enhancing these thunderstorms, so the thunderstorms may not be all associated with Ernesto. And the other is it may be making the environment for Ernesto temporarily worse. Here to give you a better view, we've added the upper low and Ernesto, and you see what's happened. They've kind of interacted today over the eastern end of Cuba, but that upper low is going to keep on going. So when the upper level low moves away, there's where we are right now, with the upper level low having a couple of different effects here. The first effect is that it's pushing the dry air, or pushing the thunderstorms off to the right, kind of shearing the top of Ernesto just a little bit, displacing the storms to the northeast and the east. The other is this air back over here is very, very dry. You see the red is the dry air in the middle and upper levels of the atmosphere, so it's also pushing dry air in there. Both of those effects are unfavorable for Ernesto to develop, let alone the fact it's over the land. But then the third factor that may come into play here is that as the low moves away, it may provide some steering to drive Ernesto to the north and also to create a favorable environment, because if this is a low, which it is, the area behind it is usually the most favorable for development. So that's why the big question mark on how favorable, how much Ernesto will be left, how strong will it be when it gets here to South Florida, and that, those we just don't know. The projection is something like Katrina from last year. So there's the latitude and the longitude as of 5 o'clock. We're standing by here within the next 20 to 25 minutes, we expect to have a new advisory from the National Hurricane Center, and we'll see if they're still holding 40-mile-an-hour winds. I expect they are. We'll see what the new direction will be. If it's northwest at 13, pressure 1,007 millibars, and there's the distance from Miami as of 5 o'clock. Again, new update coming here within the half hour. So the future track shows the storm by tomorrow morning or by the overnight hours. When we say AM here, we mean overnight. When we say PM, we mean mid-afternoon, emerging off of Cuba. So you can see from the overnight hours, maybe even a little before, depending on where exactly it emerges there, or does it take longer to get out. Sometime, though, overnight, it's over the water, and then it doesn't get up here until tomorrow evening, so it has a good part of the day there tomorrow to do what it's going to do. That's not a lot of time, but historically we know that storms have significantly intensified, maybe not tremendously, but significantly intensified in that amount of time. And then moving north. Now most of the future track involves the peninsula here, which would mean a weaker storm moving north, but of course it's possible for it to come up and stay offshore, and that would mean a stronger storm moving north and affecting our friends further north through central Florida and eventually into the Carolinas. Because up here, most of the future track is over the water, and the National Hurricane Center is indicating that they think a hurricane is going to impact the Carolina coast here during the day, or during the late day on Thursday and Thursday night, and then Friday moving north. And the big question mark up here, although it's all the way to the weekend, a lot of things can happen, is whether it's going to stay over land. Most of the tracks indicated here over land, but some of the later models actually bring it out over the water, where it could have an impact actually in the northeast. So here are the watches as we have right now, and the warnings. The orange indicating a hurricane watch, the purple indicating a tropical storm warning, meaning that tropical storm conditions are expected tomorrow, and hurricane conditions are possible. That's what both of those things mean, and also the tropical storm warnings in effect for the western Bahamian Islands, Great Exuma and the Ragged Islands, and for the eastern provinces of Cuba. As far as when the weather might arrive, this is based on the 5 o'clock advisory. There you see, right there is the edge of the winds gusting up to 40 miles an hour, and that's at midday tomorrow. But now as we move on through tomorrow late afternoon and evening, you see mid-evening in the 9 to 10 o'clock time frame, it's expected that Ernesto is going to come ashore, and this area here is the projected area of hurricane force gusts. So this is very much like a Katrina situation. Tropical storm force sustained wind, hurricane force gusts, and covering a good part, covering all of metropolitan Miami-Dade County and part of Broward County. A similar thing, except that Katrina came in, remember, from the northwest, not off the ocean. And then moving on up to the north and being essentially out of the picture by midday on Wednesday. So that's our time frame. Tomorrow afternoon, weather's deteriorating. The worst of it is tomorrow night into the overnight hours, and then improving on Wednesday morning. Now, as I was talking about, how this thing goes is very important. We'll talk more about that later on, but it is going to have effect on our forecast immediately, and already we're seeing some showers on the radar offshore. Let's go to David Bernard, and he'll take a look at that.
All right, Brian, let's take a look at the past 24 hours. It's been pretty quiet around here since yesterday evening into during the day today. Now, yesterday evening, we did have a few showers blow in during the nighttime hours and early evening. Tonight, we might see sort of the same thing. This is the upper level low that Brian has been referring to, and again, that is bypassing us down to the south, but some showers may blow in on the breeze tonight as a result of that. However, I am not looking for any kind of significant weather to impact South Florida this evening, overnight, or even into tomorrow morning. So here's the setup today. Nice easterly winds across the area, no problems to speak of. Ernesto's still well down to our south and east, but as we get the true view into tonight and into tomorrow, we will begin to see the effects. Again, it was nice and sunny and dry today. Now tomorrow you'll start to see rain on the true view, but it's in the foreground, so meaning that it's going to be coming in from the south. Notice in the background we still see blue skies and scattered clouds, so that will mean a nice morning, but wind and rain increasing late in the day. And of course, we're indicating Ernesto somewhere in the vicinity of South Florida by late tomorrow, and especially tomorrow evening. We think during the overnight hours tomorrow is when some of the worst weather is likely going to occur. occur. Now, as we go beyond tomorrow and into Wednesday, Ernesto likely lifting up to the north of South Florida, so it could be very nasty early on Wednesday, but then improving late in the day. Now, as we see a lot of times with these storms that retreat off to the north, it might leave a little bit of a moisture tail down to the south and west, so Thursday, still a good chance there might be some storms around in spots. It'll be breezy at times, but as a rule, the weather is definitely going to be improving across the area. So here's what it means for tonight. Low temperature 80, quite nice, but a few showers are going to be blowing in, and then we're going to see tomorrow back to 90. It actually could be kind of a warm day, and then we'll look for wind and rain increasing late in the evening and especially during the overnight hours. And here's what it means for the rest of the week. Of course, the Ernesto effects coming in tomorrow, and then also Wednesday, and on Thursday, leftover storms, and it looks like on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to be back to just typical old summertime weather, and we can't wait for that to get here. Can't get here soon enough. Let's go back over to Rob and Maggie.
You can say that again. Thank you, David. Remember, you can ask Brian Norcross your questions online. Email them to cbs4news.com. Brian will try to answer as many as possible on the air.
The threat of a storm is especially bad news for residents still living under blue tarps because of damage from last year's hurricane season.
So a lot of people are wondering, what should you do if you're already living in a damaged home? CBS 4's Lori Stein went looking for answers.
We found this apartment complex in Sweetwater today, and every roof has a blue tarp. Inside the apartments like this one, it's basically the same story. What now?
The announcement was brief and to the point. If you have one of these on your roof, you should come up with a plan.
If your home currently has a blue tarp, we recommend that you start contacting friends, neighbors, and co-workers so that you can make arrangements to ride out the storm someplace else.
Erica Castro says if she needs to, she'll take the $200 worth of groceries she just bought and her 4 kids and go to her parents' home. But she isn't too worried yet.
No, I'm not nervous. It's just that this is Miami.
Across the parking lot, her neighbor George Kane was putting up shutters, protecting his windows and hoping his roof holds up.
What are you going to do now?
Well, I hope it's not that bad. Yeah.
You finding somewhere to stay?
No, I go for the hurricane right here in my house.
Even with your roof in need of repair?
Yeah. Got nowhere else to go. And maybe it's not that bad.
The Liu family says their blue tarped roof has not leaked yet, but if the weather gets bad, they'll leave.
Maybe FAU.
In a shelter?
Shelter center, yeah.
The Public-Private Partnership for Recovery reports that 17,000 blue tarps have been issued to homes in Miami-Dade County alone. Insurance spokesperson Jose Soto says if you happen to be one of those homeowners who still has the blue tarp on your roof and you replace property that you put in a claim for last year, you should document everything, both before and after a storm.
Go ahead and photograph some of the repairs you've done already or videotape the area. You probably have some receipts for some of the repairs you've done. And then afterwards, after the storm goes through, if you can photograph or tape if there's any new damage and then present that to the adjuster, that's going to help you expedite the claim.
As for Erica Castro, who lives inside this apartment, she just moved here recently. When she asked when is the roof going to be fixed, she was told in a few weeks. Of course, that doesn't do much for her today. In Sweetwater, Lori Stein, CBS 4 News.
The Florida Keys are under a hurricane watch tonight, and all visitors have been ordered out.
CBS 4's Jawan Strader is live in Marathon to bring us up to date on what's happening down there in the Keys. Jawan.
Well, Maggie, right now it is really quiet out here. If you take a look here right behind me, this is US 1 headed southbound. There's not much traffic at all. You see just a few cars. But if you take a look the other way, you will see quite a few cars headed out of the Keys. They are headed up north, of course, trying to evacuate for Ernesto. If you take a look across the street, that's Galway Bay. You have a mobile home park. Not much activity there at all because many people here are taking this storm seriously. It's the calm before the storm, and Ernesto is becoming more clear to residents as it approaches South Florida.
That's pretty much it, except for just putting the panels up.
Mark Hain is taking no chances. His Marathon home was nearly wiped out by Wilma's strong storm surge last year.
We had like 2 to 3 foot waves on 11th Street where we lived. and it just washed in telephone poles, trash cans, all kinds of stuff that was just floating around.
Getting all ready, right?
Down the street, the manager at Galway Bay Mobile Home Park goes door to door alerting residents to evacuate.
Going great. Right now I'm going around doing our final checks, making sure that everything's tied down.
And on this hot summer day, it's the perfect day not only for homeowners, but for boaters to start preparing for Tropical Storm Ernesto.
We are taking precautions. We're not taking anything for granted, and we intend to get it done right.
That means getting the lifts in place to pull boats out of the water and putting in extra lines to make sure boats are secure from Ernesto. Once this dog-eat-dog day of preparation is done, some in Marathon plan to relax and wait.
Once we're all done, we can hunker down and have some chili and drink beer and not worry about anything.
Well, some chili sounds pretty good right about now as the sun sets here in Marathon. I spoke with the spokesman with the Monroe County Emergency Management Agency. He tells me down here the shelters are empty right now. They've been open since about 10 a.m. He says many of the people are just waiting and watching Ernesto. Reporting live here from Marathon, Jawan Strader, CBS 4 News.
All right, and we are waiting for the next advisory on Tropical Storm Ernesto.
The 8 o'clock advisory. Hopefully it'll come in a little bit early. CBS 4 storm specialist Brian Norcross is live in weather control. What do you think, Brian?
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we go right to the source. Max Mayfield is standing by and waiting for us here. Max, are you with us?
You bet, Brian.
All right, Max, are we still carrying a tropical storm here?
We are, and I don't think we're going to see any significant intensification at all here, Brian. This on the radar here, we got banding all the way around it, but it's still definitely over land, and it may be leaning a little bit more towards the west-northwest rather than northwest, and that's probably good news that it's not emerging off the north coast yet.
I would say. All right, well, that's going to be an interesting development. Is that off the track of the models at all significantly, or is it still pretty much on track?
This is almost in the noise level.
Okay.
I wouldn't make too much of that, but if it, sometimes as they interact with land, they may jump or reform, redevelop, one side or the other, and I was a little afraid that might happen, and it hasn't. We still have that identifiable center that we can track on radar. So, the longer it stays over land, the better off we're going to be.
Especially with those thunderstorms to the north of it there. Sometimes that tends to drag the center in that direction.
Right, and I've learned to expect surprises, and I would not have been surprised if that had happened.
All right, let's just assume that what happens is sort of what you're projecting to happen, which of course it never, or rarely is exactly that,
right.
Although last year you were amazing. But if we get a strong tropical storm to right near hurricane strength, Hurricane Katrina type storm coming in southern Miami-Dade County, we would still expect a significant storm surge, not a deadly storm surge, but in Biscayne Bay, almost a Wilma type storm surge.
Right, and 3 to 5 feet is, it's significant. It's not going to be devastating, but as long as our forecast is correct, 2 to 4, 3 to 5 feet will be a reasonable forecast, and that can have some impacts.
Now, have you done, I'm sure you have, the storm surge projection on the Keys, because this would bring a north wind, being Florida Bay, which of course is very prone to storm surge, from the other side, as we saw last year with Wilma as well. What are we looking for in the Keys if the storm comes ashore in southern Miami-Dade County?
Well, it's not going to be, they have to worry about it on both sides there,
right,
when they have the flow from the east, from the Florida Strait side, and then the northerly flow from the Florida Bay side. Depending on how close that track is, and we still have, you were talking about the global forecast system that came in not too long ago, that still has it moving over the Keys, so we want to be really sure that the folks in the Florida Keys understand that we still have some very good models taking this system right over the Keys. So if that does happen, they could, and we did look at the storm surge there, and 3 to 5 feet is probably going to be good for that area, as long as it does not become a hurricane.
And you're talking about from the ocean side or from the bay side?
From the bay side, right. But they'll certainly have wave action and some surge from the Florida Strait side also.
It's really hard to tell, I know, because we don't know exactly what we're going to be dealing with in that 12 or 18 hours, whatever it would take to get from Cuba to Florida. But do you see this as anything like an Irene situation if it were to go to the west of the metropolitan area and just drag a lot of tropical moisture up on the east side?
Well, it could, and I think that as it comes off the north coast, you know, it will at some point, you know, probably become a little more symmetrical than it has been. It's been, you know, we've had all the weather on the east side. Well, I think, you know, it may become, you know, rounder as it comes off here, but then as it turns more to the north, it'll likely, the heaviest weather will shift to the east side, and so we don't want to forget about, you know, the rainfall too. We've got to be very careful, and that turnaround, don't drown program is great. The mess is there. If you can't see that road out in front of you, please don't drive there.
The National Weather Service is talking about numbers in the 10-inch range. That's a lot of rain.
It is a lot of rain, and you know, we had areas that had 10 inches, a few areas have 15, 16 inches, and Katrina, and you know, the forecast office here will look very carefully at that as it gets closer.
Right. All right, Max, we'll stay in close touch. Thanks very much.
Okay, you bet.
All right, so that's the bottom line here. This may be further good news. I'm still trying to get, I'll have to talk to the folks at the Hurricane Center when this is over, see how they're getting the Cuban radar, and we're not able to here. But it's tracking even more so over Cuba, apparently, and not emerging out, so more good news there. But how that might affect the track, we don't know. That sound you heard is the new advisory coming in. If you wanted to stay with me a second, I'll give you the headlines as it comes off. Tropical storm warning and hurricane watch continues for the same areas from Vero Beach down all of South Florida, continuing under tropical storm warning and hurricane watch. As Max said, it's still a tropical storm. So all the watches and warnings are the same. The center is located still inland, about 30 miles to the east of Camagüey, Cuba. We'll get the numbers exactly from Miami in just a moment. And it says, over the past several hours, Ernesto has been moving toward the west-northwest. West-northwest. That's along Cuba, as opposed to moving off. However, a northwestward motion is expected to resume later tonight, which would take the center of circulation off the north coast of Cuba into the Atlantic during the next 6 to 12 hours. Top winds still 40 miles per hour. So that's the bottom line. We'll have the details on it when we update it in detail here at 8 o'clock. Okay,
Hot
so
off the presses.
about the same, except for that west-northwest movement, which is important.
Thanks, Brian. I love it when that happens, when our viewers can get it immediately.
We'll be right back with more on this special report.
We've got some of America's hottest selling new models, plus the hottest deals of the summer at the Lincoln Mercury Celebration Clearance. Get 0% APR plus 500 Ford credit cash, plus new extended powertrain coverage on Mercury Mariner. Hurry, offer ends soon.
The excitement of a show like this will last forever. Counting Crows and Goo Goo Dolls together. Live in concert. Don't miss it, August 31st at Sound Advice Amphitheater. Get ready for a night of hits. Goo Goo Dolls and Counting Crows. Get tickets now at LiveNation.com, the box office, Ticketmaster, and by phone. Produced by Live Nation.
It's the ultimate sofa sale, when every single sofa without exception will be on sale at Rooms to Go. Save on leather sofas, motion sofas, sleeper sofas, and fabric sofas. Every sofa in every Rooms to Go showroom will be reduced to shocking low prices. It's an incredible opportunity, the ultimate sofa sale at Rooms to Go. Every sofa is on sale now through Tuesday.
Rod Smith makes a lot of noise, but his record of siding with special interests comes through loud and clear. Smith voted for the largest residential phone rate increase in state history. He went to bat for insurance companies who refused to pay claims by Florida homeowners, and Smith made it easier to pollute and harder to clean up the Everglades. Now a powerful Republican company, U.S. Sugar, is spending nearly $2 million to make Rod Smith governor. When you cut through the noise, Rod Smith just isn't on our side.
We've got some of America's hottest selling new models, plus the hottest deals of the summer at the Lincoln Mercury Celebration Clearance. Lease Mercury Milan with zero cash due, plus new extended powertrain coverage for just $257 a month. Hurry, offer ends soon.
For CBS 4 News coverage on the radio, go to our radio partners in Miami-Dade and Broward. You can listen on 101.5 FM, Magic 102.7, and WLRN 91.3 FM. On the AM dial, 850 WFTL and Sports Talk 790, as well as News Talk 1080.
In the Keys, listen to us on US 1, 104.1 FM, Country 98.7, 97.7 Wave FM, and Oldies 105.5.
And for our Spanish-speaking viewers, you can tune into Clásica 92.3 FM, and occasionally Mega TV Channel 22 will broadcast some of our stuff as well.
And you can always find information online. Log on to CBS4.com, where the news is always on.
Right now we want to bring in Brian Norcross to answer some questions about Ernesto. Brian, listening to that last advisory, it looks like there's still three possibilities. It could come straight up, to the east, or to the west. The probability for those three are still equal at this point?
Well, as you get to the center of the cone, it's a little bit higher, but the equal probabilities within, as Max says, the noise, in other words, you can't really distinguish, is a good part of the cone. So we really try not to distinguish. We've seen so many times the storm hug one side of the cone or the other. We haven't had a storm go outside of the cone that I can remember in recent years, but this one, for example, has hugged the right side of the cone up until today, and now it seems to be taking a little bit to the left side as it's veered a little more west than forecast. But that's why we look at the cone. We don't look at the center or the right. We just talk about the possibilities.
As it stays over land, over Cuba, it's still close to the coastline. I think you said 30 miles, but that's still enough to keep the storm from strengthening?
Well, it's 30 miles from Camagüey. Yeah, it may not even be 30 miles from the coast to the center, but the way these storms work is that the air comes in at the bottom and then swirls up and goes out at the top. And so as the air rises, it sucks in more air at the bottom. Well, if the air coming at the bottom is running into land, a couple bad things are happening from the storm's point of view. One is it's slowing the air down from the friction. The other is it's drying it out, and you're not having the moisture that can really pump into the storm. So that's why the tropical mechanism, the engine of a tropical system, can't work over land. It doesn't really make a whole lot of difference how close it is unless it's a big circulation and part of it, or a good part of it's over the water. This is a small circulation, and apparently almost all of it is over the land.
We love watching this storm break up over land today a bit. Historically, Brian, have you seen a lot of storms get into the water and regenerate?
We've had some do it, no question about it. The kingpin for that kind of an event was Hurricane Frederick back in 1979. That really, you couldn't even make it out on the satellite picture. It actually kind of just degenerated in a tropical way, but it had a lot of time to do that. I mean, I hate to mention it, but just because it's true, the 1935 Keys hurricane was a very weak storm a day and a half before it hit as a strong Category 5 into the Middle Keys. So it can happen, but exactly the right conditions have to come together, and that's why we just have to be vigilant until we know what we're working with here. But because this one has been over land, that one wasn't over land, that one's just over the Bahamas and not very strong, so it didn't have this land effect that was inhibiting it. But until it gets out there and really can work with the warm water and the atmospheric conditions, we're just not going to know.
Yeah, it's so hard because you can't guess, and a day out we want to know what's going to happen, but the best thing we can do is just what we've done, is prepare today for any scenario.
That's what we have to do, yes.
Keep track of it day to day. Brian, you're here throughout the evening. Obviously, you're going to be on every hour, am I right, with updates?
Yeah, I'll be back at 8 o'clock. We'll have a rundown for folks just tuning in.
All right, Brian Norcross, thank you very much. And of course, we will be back on our sister station, UPN 33 at 10, and right here on CBS 4 News at 11. We also want you to know that our news partner, the Miami Herald, will be delivering the paper tomorrow as planned, and I'm sure that they're going to have a special section all about Ernesto then, so you can get the latest information from your weather station and our news partners tomorrow in the Miami Herald.
And we will know more tonight when the 11 o'clock advisory comes out. After all these storms that we've covered, you and I and Brian Norcross, we know that the 11 o'clock advisory is very important, but right now the storm remains over land, which is probably the best news we could have had all day with this thing.
By 11, it may be heading out into the water, and that's going to be the telling time. That's going to be the time when we're going to know if Ernesto is going to regenerate, if it's going to move quickly. So definitely by 11 o'clock we'll have a better idea, so we hope that you'll join us then. Right now we're going to take you to primetime programming on CBS. Thanks for watching.
Brian Norcross and David Bernard are tracking Ernesto's every move. Keep it on 4.
Announcing the best values of the summer on some of America's hottest selling new models during the Lincoln Mercury Celebration Clearance. Get $7,500 cash back, plus new extended powertrain coverage on Lincoln Navigator. Hurry, offer ends soon.
Cool. Just because you've got a lot of cleaning up to do doesn't mean you need a full-size paper towel to do it. Bounty Select-A-Size. Each sheet is 45% smaller, but it's 100% Bounty. Lab tests prove that when wet, our small sheet is stronger than their full-size sheet. So try the paper towel that cleans small spills with less waste. Select Bounty Select-A-Size, the smaller, quicker picker-upper.
Bounty. Human interest story. I won't look at you. I have no time for you. That beard of bees, it has no power over me.
Let nothing keep you from a delicious new Dunkin' Donuts Sausage Supreme Omelet. Not even that human interest story. America runs on Dunkin'.
Stop by Dunkin' Donuts and try the new Sausage Supreme Omelet Breakfast Sandwich and Coffee Combo.
Guten Dielen.
Is that real German?
Yes, it is.
Well, I took German in college.
Well, then you know. It's the traditional greeting of Liesvernaten, the once-a-year celebration of great deals on Volkswagens.
Liesvernaten, it's not a real holiday.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes. You're right.
Lease a 2006 Value Edition Jetta for $189 a month on a 24-month lease.
Guten Dielen.
People can be scared of a little salmon, but it's actually very easy to cook.
How would you marinate this?
Some olive oil, garlic, salt.
It would really impress the in-laws.
I try and treat the customers like I like to be treated myself.
What is he doing?
He's tying up a standing rib roast, and you want it nicely marbled, just exactly the way you want it.
I'd be simple with the flavors.
I mean, you're the one cooking at home, but
Pan seared on both sides, throw it in the broiler.
Thank you.
Thank you.
people just pass by and we're here to help.
So would you say you're helpful?
Yeah.
Helpfulness, always in stock at Publix.
Announcing the best values of the summer on some of America's hottest selling new models during the Lincoln Mercury Celebration Clearance. Lease Lincoln Zephyr with zero cash due, plus new extended powertrain coverage for just $364 a month. Hurry, offer ends soon.
Now, live, this is a special edition of CBS 4 News. Tropical Storm Ernesto.
And good evening once again. Brian Norcross here in Weather Control to bring you up to date what's going on with Ernesto. Interesting development here on the 8 o'clock advisory. Let's get right to it. There you see the numbers. Now, most of them are not especially remarkable and about the same as they have been. This is the interesting one, west-northwest motion, and you can see it here in the hook of the track. Is doing two things. One is it's keeping Ernesto over Cuba longer, and that's of course good. Over land is always better than over water, and it extends the time that it stays to our south, so that may on future advisories keep it from getting here sooner. And then we have the big question mark of why is it doing that, and what does that mean for the overall future of Ernesto, because there are big mountains ahead here on Cuba, and just the factor for being over land is of course unhealthy to the tropical system. Anyway, it's 355 miles southeast of Miami. Now the National Hurricane Center is still expecting Ernesto to turn back to the northwest and move out over the Atlantic during the overnight hours, the early morning hours of tomorrow, and then move on north so that it's in our general vicinity or off our coast here tomorrow afternoon. So somewhere in here or in here or in here tomorrow afternoon, with the weather deteriorating over all of South Florida, and then moving up to the north, and so by morning on Wednesday it's somewhere in the Boca area, but although it could be well offshore over the land or off to the west coast, even with the future track being that wide, and then speeding north, and we're not sure if it's going to veer out. Some of the models are taking it offshore at this point so it can re-strengthen in this area. Others are keeping it over the land, so that's uncertain what's going to happen Wednesday afternoon as it moves on up to the north and affects the Carolinas potentially as a hurricane. And then to the north, and what's going to happen in the northeast, that's another question. Again, some of the models are keeping it offshore, and the majority of them are keeping it onshore, but the later ones now are raising questions about whether it might end up offshore here, affecting the big cities of the Northeast. Now watch the satellite picture today. This is what has been significant. We see this little area moving out from the main. That looked like it was a storm earlier, but now look, it's actually over here. The storm, the center of the storm is that batch of clouds that's over near the word Cuba there. There you see it. That's the track. Now let's go close up because you can see the significant change tonight. Look at that. Look at that bend there off to the west. Now what is that going to mean? We don't really know. It came up northwest, northwest, and what we were afraid earlier today is it was going to quickly emerge and therefore get out over the water and re-intensify. It didn't do that. It took a left, and now it's taken another left, and we don't know why that is indeed happening. We also see, however, some thunderstorms that were developing here, some more that were developing here, and wherever we see thunderstorms near the center, that often concerns us because that indicates the possibility of some strengthening. Now let's look at that wider view again, because this is significant, because if it were to continue like this and then head up to the northwest, that then looks like it's going to affect the Keys as opposed to where we started with this whole thing. So you folks in the Keys, as Max Mayfield said here just on CBS 4 just a few minutes ago, we don't want anybody in the Keys to let down their guard because the concentration has been on Miami-Dade and Broward. With this shift to the left, it's very possible that, again, the Keys could be have a situation that this storm, the worst of this storm, is going to be there. Now, the good news is that if that were the case, there's less time between Cuba and the Keys for the storm to develop, as if it went up like this, for example, that's a longer time over water. So still, we have a lot of possibilities here. Still not sure exactly what's going to happen. That's why we continue to have these watches and warnings in effect. Now, here is the situation today. We've had the two things, the tropical storm and this upper low, and the upper low has perhaps been one of the factors in inhibiting development and kind of tearing it apart, besides the fact that it's been over land. But with the upper low, here's the situation now. That's the negative things today. The one thing is pushing the thunderstorms on off to the east or the northeast. The other is pushing dry air. This red over here is all very dry air in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, pushing that into the circulation. But as it moves away, it may do positive things. One is, from the storm's point of view, I mean, steering influence, pushing it to the north, maybe even off to the northwest. The other is creating a favorable environment. This low is unfavorable, but what's behind it is usually the most favorable environment for development. So that's another player in what we have going on. So here we are with the hurricane watch, that's the orange, and the tropical storm warning over all of South Florida, meaning at least tropical storm conditions are expected. Hurricane conditions are possible tomorrow, with the weather deteriorating in the afternoon and then being worse tomorrow night, the worst weather we're going to get tomorrow night, and then improving by Wednesday morning, so that by midday Wednesday, most of the bad weather should be moved to the north, although we would expect thunderstorms to continue, but in terms of the wind with the tropical system, it should have moved to the north by midday on Wednesday. So that's where we stand right now. We'll be here throughout the evening. We'll have updates as warranted. Anything changes, of course, we'll let you know right away. We'll have a full rundown on UPN 33 News at 10 o'clock over on UPN 33, and of course a new advisory and new future track here at 11 o'clock on CBS 4. So stay with us through the evening, and we'll see you here at 10 o'clock on UPN 33 and 11 here for CBS 4. Now to CBS programming already in progress.
Love's has outstanding leakage protection for less than the pricier brands. So take the change to Love's challenge. Buy a pack, love them, or your money back.
How did you become such a great master?
Yellowbook.com.
Yellowbook.com?
Everyone is searching for something.
Isn't Yellowbook.com for buying stuff?
After all, it is a material world. Let's say pizza makes you happy. Just type in what and where.
But Master, how do you show them the way?
Yellowbook.com has a map feature. Infinite information. Yellowbook.com.
Quick, local, reliable.
What are you going to get there?
The Ford Freestyle crossover. More than 500 miles on a tank of gas.
Thanks for inviting me this weekend. All right, guys. I'll see you next week.
Bye, Dad. Bye, Dad.
Bye.
Bold moves, they happen every day.
Oh, I stole his password online and hello. Makeover. I got hair extensions, plumped up the lips, and snapped the hottest headshots. Hollywood, here I come. Tell me what you think. Unbreak my heart, say you love me again. Undo this hurt that you caused when you walked out the door and you walked out of my life.
Citi Identity Theft Solutions. Talk to a real person to help get your life back. Free when you get a Citi credit card or Citibank account.
Go ahead, push it. It's a new HP notebook. It's got Intel Centrino dual mobile technology, so you can take it pretty much anywhere.
I'm gonna take it over here. Staples makes technology easy. Do more with a powerful HP Pavilion notebook. Just $949.99. Only at Staples. That was easy.
You won't believe how we separate the survivor tribes this time.
We've divided into races. What an advantage for the Hispanics.
Survivor premieres Thursday, September 14th.